What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here. This is my first time recording a video in about a week, so I'm really sorry if I'm a little bit rusty, but I just needed some time away. I was making videos once a day for about 3 months straight. Sometimes I was making more than one video every day, and I think I burnt myself out. So the UFC's taking a break, I've taken a break, and I'm ready to get back into it. I'm ready to make more content. Let's just start with UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Rozenstruik. I also believe it's called UFC Vegas 56, but that doesn't matter. Let's get straight into the predictions, man. As always, this is my early predictions. This is my first time looking at the card. I have not looked at the card like with you guys. Haven't really looked over the card too much until now, really. So this is my first time giving some blind predictions, I guess you could say. If you want a full card breakdown, it's probably going to come out in about 3-4 days time or so, later on in the week or early next week. Anyway, with that being aside, hopefully that intro wasn't too long. It was about a minute, so let's get straight into the first fight. Damon Jackson versus Daniel Argueta. Now, they're not doing Daniel Argueta any favors in this one, man. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people probably want Argueta to win. I want Argueta to win. I love Argueta as a prospect. He's 8-0. He fought on the Ultimate Fighter season 29. He lost to Ricky Torres by decision, who ended up winning the whole thing. Come back. And has gone on a decent win streak. He beat a very good undefeated fighter in Myron Santos. Beat Diego Silva by split decision. But he took a lot of damage in that one, man. That was only about a month ago. And now he's going to be bouncing back against Damon Jackson, who's got a really, really good ground game on very short notice as well. On about a week and a half notice. I'm sorry, Daniel Argueta, man. I'm really, really happy that he's in the UFC. But I wanted to see Dan fight on Dana White's Contender Series first, and then get in the UFC. I mean, the guy's taking a fight upper weight class. He's a bantamweight fighting Damon Jackson, who's a pretty big 145 pounder, who's a grappling 145 pounder. He's 5'11". Like, yeah, Damon Jackson by decision or submission is my pick. I picked him to submit Kamala Kirk. A lot of people were picking Kirk. I picked Damon Jackson. I'm going to be picking Damon Jackson again to win by, you know what, I'm going to pick him to win by submission or decision, one of the two, over Daniel Argueta on this one here. He's going to be too big, man. Shout out to Dan for taking the fight, but I think Damon Jackson's going to win this one, man. Tony Gravely versus Johnny Munoz Jr. Tony Gravely going up and down in this last couple of fights. I picked him to win against Simon Oliveira. He won against Simon Oliveira. Simon Oliveira shot for like 11 guillotines in that fight or something crazy like that. It was a weird fight, man. Every time Tony Gravely shot for a takedown, Simon Oliveira like pulled guillotine. Weird fight, but he won. I picked Tony Gravely to win that one too. Johnny Munoz Jr. on the other hand hasn't fought for 9 months. He beat Jamie Simmons, which I guess is somewhat of a good win, but he did lose to Nate Maness, who is on a bit of a win streak right now, fighting Umar Nurmagomedov in his next fight. But prior to that, he was fighting not so great competition on the regional scene, I guess. I will be picking Tony Gravely to use this wrestling in this one here. He's an older guy. He's almost 31 years old. He's not even that old, but he's just so much more experience, you know. He's beaten a couple of good guys. I remember that KO over Anthony Burchak. I do remember his KO loss to Nate Maness. Both guys have lost to Nate Maness. I like Gravely to win this fight, probably by a decision as well, in this one here. Moving up the card, Alonzo Munifield versus Askar Mozharov. This fight is not going to go the distance. This fight is probably going to end by KO. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick the dog. I'm picking the underdog. I'm picking Askar Mozharov to win this one. I think he's a great prospect. He's a very experienced prospect as well. He may... I mean, I think that USADA thinks that this guy's on roids. They tested Askar Mozharov more than any other athlete in the UFC. Askar Mozharov, I believe, in 2021 was the most tested athlete out of any athlete on the UFC roster. I believe that's true. I read that somewhere. But Askar Mozharov, KO power in the hands, man. He's on a decent KO streak over somewhat decent levels of competition, not necessarily UFC levels of competition. And he did blunder about 2.5 years ago in Titan FC against not so great competition then, but he's bounced back on a 3-fight win streak. Alonzo Munifield lost to William Knight, but I mean, there's an argument to be made. He won the fight. He beat Ed Herman by decision, beat Fabio Schramp by submission, but lost to Devin Clark and over at St. Preux. Both guys are pretty good round one finishers. Alonzo Munifield can get pretty crazy in the cage at times. I'm picking Askar Mozharov to win this one. Maybe my pick will change. There's probably a very good chance that my pick will change, but at the moment I'm going with the underdog and I'm going with Askar Mozharov to win his UFC debut. Joe Solecki versus Alex De Silva. I like Joe Solecki as a prospect, and I feel like this is a pretty good opportunity for him to get a bounce back in this one here. Alex De Silva has a insane record of 21 wins and 3 losses, but that record, it's not super padded, but it's somewhat sketchy, I will admit, coming into the UFC. He did beat some not so great competition, but just before the UFC though, he was fighting some pretty good levels of competition there. His one loss recently coming to Brad Riddell, Alexander Yakovlev, and Jacob Kowalkiewicz in 2017. But yeah, he was fighting not too bad levels of competition before the UFC, but it's a very padded record, I will admit. But Joe Solecki, on the other hand, a pretty good prospect in my opinion. Beat Jim Miller by decision, which is aging pretty well. Beat Austin Hubbard, who I don't think's in the UFC anymore. Beat Matt Wyman. Beat James Wallace on the Dana White's Contender Series. And then he did lose a split decision to Jared Gordon, who's pretty decent to be fair. I like Joe Solecki to win this one here. Alex Da Silva, I mean, I guess he's a pretty good prospect. He's only 26 years old, but I feel like even though he's got the most insane record I've ever seen, well, not that, you know what I mean, like, he's got an absolutely insane record, I just don't think that it's going to be backed up against Joe Solecki. I'm going to probably pick a decision win for Solecki in this one here. He's got a pretty good ground game, though. Benoit St. Denis versus Nicolas Stolze. Benoit St. Denis, I believe he fought his UFC debut on short notice. I believe he fought Alizé Zaleski on short notice. Is that correct, or was that a full camp fight? Someone let me know, but prior to that, that was his UFC debut, and he was fighting some pretty good level of competition on the regional scene. Came in against Alizé Zaleski, who's a very good fighter, to be fair. I believe Alizé Zaleski's the guy with the wheel kick KO over Sean Strickland, so that's pretty cool. But Nicolas Stolze on a 2-fight losing streak, I don't think he's got a win in the UFC, unfortunately for him. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He needs to win this fight or else he's getting cut. Made his debut against Ramazan Emeev, not really the easiest debut in the world, to be fair. Lost that one, and then he got knocked out by Jared Gooden 9 months ago. And yeah, I'm going to be picking Benoit St. Denis to get a KO himself. I do like Benoit St. Denis as a prospect. Maybe it was a little bit too soon in his debut, but I like Benoit St. Denis striking and stand-up. Well, okay, maybe I'm an idiot. Okay, this is going to be really embarrassing for me if I've got Benoit St. Denis switched up with someone else. Yeah, okay, Benoit St. Denis more as a grappling game, but I swear, no, I'm picking Benoit St. Denis by KO anyway. That's embarrassing. I got Benoit St. Denis crossed up with someone else. Ignore that, please. But it's so awkward. Ignore it, please. We'll move on. Mike Trizano versus Lucas Almeida. I'm picking Mike Trizano to win this fight here. Lucas Almeida, I was going to say, yeah, I think he's making his UFC debut. He dropped... okay, now I know who he is. He lost to Daniel Zellhuber by decision. Daniel Zellhuber's an elite prospect making his UFC debut sometime soon, but he lost to Daniel Zellhuber, bounced back over a pretty good opponent, won by submission. Now he's fighting Mike Trizano. Now Mike Trizano recently went the distance with Hakeem Dawodu in a very exciting fight, and he also did lose by submission to Grant Dawson, who's a pretty good fighter, but he beat Ludovic Klein. Ludovic Klein has bounced back somewhat since then. And the Hakeem Dawodu decision loss, I picked Hakeem Dawodu to win that one. Hakeem has kind of always been like a borderline top 15 guy. Mike Trizano made that fight somewhat competitive, but Hakeem kind of just outstruck him there over the 3 rounds. But yeah, he's from the Ultimate Fighter undefeated season, I believe. He beat Joe Giannetti. I think that was in the finals, and then he beat Luis Pena. Luis Pena, I believe, is in prison at the moment, but we move on from that. I'm going to be picking Mike Trizano to win this one, probably by a decision. I think that he's probably his best bet is probably to keep the fight on the feet, but a pretty good opportunity for Lucas Almeida, who isn't actually a bad prospect himself. He's pretty good, to be fair. Now, this fight here, we've got a live, and I mean a live underdog in JJ Aldridge. I believe that Erin Blanchard is like minus 700, or something absolutely insane like that in the bookies. I believe she's like minus 600, minus 700. I'll talk about it in my full card breakdown when I use my BetUS odds and I talk about the odds and the best bets in that. But I think JJ Aldridge, I believe she can be like plus 400 on some books. She's got a pretty good takedown defense, and even then her striking's pretty good as well. I think JJ Aldridge is potentially a live dog. I'm picking Erin Blanchard, but I do not like the minus 700 tag on Erin Blanchard whatsoever. So JJ Aldridge, potentially the most live underdog for your crazy plus money on the card. But I do like Erin Blanchard to win this one. I'll pick her to win by a decision, I think. I mean, she's got a really good jiu-jitsu game. She's got a pretty good wrestling game as well. She beat Miranda Maverick by decision, which is a very impressive win in my opinion. She beat Sarah Alpar in her UFC debut, but prior to that, though, she beat Brogan Walker, who's on the Ultimate Fighter Season 30, I believe. And she beat Victoria Leonardo, I believe, who ended up on the UFC at one point. Am I correct in saying that? I think her one loss is to Jasmine Jasudavicius by a split decision. I think I'm correct in that, but JJ Aldrich pretty good takedown defense. Even then, JJ Aldrich ground game isn't that, but I think she's got like a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Tracy Cortez, sorry, split decision, loss in that one there. I'm picking Blanchard to win, probably a decision, maybe a submission, but JJ Aldrich, if she can keep the fight on the feet, I think she's going to be a very live underdog, like very live at plus 500, which is absolutely insane. Andreas Micheladas versus Renat Fakhrinidov. I don't really know much about Renat, I will admit. He's got obviously a pretty crazy record. Their record isn't super padded. He's beat Eric Spicely, he was 12-5. I think Eric Spicely is a former UFC fighter as well. And a couple of good guys over at Guerrilla FC. Hasn't been super active as of recent, hasn't fought for about a year and a half, but I think he had quite a few fights fall out. Am I correct in saying that? Tapology always takes so long to load on my laptop for some reason. Sorry, team. No, he didn't. This is his first fight booked. Andreas Micheladas is probably most famous, unfortunately, for him to be being knocked out by Alex Bahia. But he's not too bad of a fighter, man. Prior to that, though, he did beat the GOAT. Potentially the GOAT, the greatest fighter of all time, KB Buller. You know what? Yeah, well, anyway, Andreas Micheladas has a pretty good grappling game. I'm assuming that Renat, just based on his name, has a good grappling game as well. But I don't really know anything about Renat. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about this prospect. I really should. Looking at the fight, I saw him making his debut. I was like, this guy's going to be insane. I'll probably pick him to win the fight. But I don't know much about it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Wait for my breakdown in about 3 to 4 days or so, and you're going to probably get a pretty good breakdown from me on Renat Fakhrinidov after I do my own research on this one here. Now, Odom Osborne versus Zaruk Arashiev. Zaruk Arashiev is only like plus 150 in this fight, which is pretty crazy. In my opinion, though, Zaruk Arashiev was signed to the UFC a little bit too early. I think it's because, for two reasons. I believe he's got a really good kickboxing background, and also I believe it's because they really wanted a guy from Uzbekistan in the UFC. He got signed to the UFC at 3-1, lost his debut to Tyson Nam by KO, and then lost to Submadajiri after that. He had a 3-3 record coming into his fight with Ryan Benoit, and a fight that was a win or go home for both guys, really, and it was Zaruk Arashiev who got the win by decision in that one there. Odom Osborne's been going up and down in his UFC career. He came in off the Contender Series, beat Armando Villarreal by submission, and then he lost to Brian Kelleher in his debut. I believe I picked Brian Kelleher. No, I didn't even have a YouTube channel then. What am I talking about? He KO'd Jerome Rivera, who's potentially the worst fighter in the UFC ever. Lost to Manel Karp. I mean, Manel Karp's a really good prospect, potentially. I believe he's actually banned from fighting in one state because of a drug violation. So, think of that how you think. And then he beat Sergio Vergara by decision. And Sergio Vergara recently got like the biggest robbery of the year handed to him against Clayton Rodriguez. But moving on from that, I like Odom Osborne's striking. I like his boxing. I think he's got really quick hands. But Zaruk Arashiev also has really good kickboxing himself. I mean, the record in MMA really isn't too great. 4-3 in the UFC. It ain't the prettiest look in the world, I will admit. It probably is. Once again, even though he's coming off a win or go home for Zaruk Arashiev. But I do think that Odom Osborne probably should win this fight here. I will be picking him to win, but Arashiev's only like plus 150, so maybe if you really like Osborne, I think that Osborne maybe is a pretty good bet. But Arashiev, you know, he's got a chance. He does have a chance on the feet, but I do like Odom Osborne. I like his really fast hands in this one here. Jeff Molina, speaking of good striking, I liked Jeff Molina's performance against Ayori Kaling. That was a really exciting fight. Ayori Kaling always puts on very exciting fights, win or lose. Then he come back and he knocked out Daniel Da Silva, and Daniel Da Silva's UFC debut, I believe that was. Prior to that, though, he did beat Jacob Silva on the Dana White's Contender Series. Now he's fighting Zhalgas Samagilov. In my opinion, probably win or go home for Zhalgas Samagilov. He lost to Manel Karp by KO, but he beat Jerome Rivera by submission. I picked Zhalgas Samagilov to win that fight, even though he was on a 2-fight losing streak to Halion Piver, who's pretty good to be fair. Amir Albazi, once again, who is pretty good to be fair. But I think this is Jeff Molina's fight, man. I believe that Jeff Molina's a really hot prospect. Zhalgas Samagilov, not so much in my opinion. Just hasn't really lived up to the hype, has Zhalgas in my opinion. Jeff Molina, though, put on a pretty impressive performance against Ayori Kaling. It was a very close fight, I will admit. Both guys were trading shots on the feet, but super young prospect, not even 25 years old. I do like Jeff Molina to win this one here, potentially by KO even against Zhalgas, who probably will be trying to clinch up and work his game from there. Poliana Botello versus Karine Silva. I like Karine Silva a lot. I picked her to win her Dana White's Contender Series fight against Kuihi Yan, who was 20-3 at the time, which is absolutely insane. But Kiki Yan's record was pretty padded, to be fair, but that's still a really good win on Corinne Silva's record. And prior to that, though, she has got a couple of really good wins on the regional scene as well. She's got a great submission game. She's got a great wrestling game as well. I really do like Corinne Silva as a potential prospect in the UFC. And she's taking on Poliana Botelho, who hasn't really lived up to the hype. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. She lost to Luana Carolina, who was alright. She got knocked out by Molly McCann. And she lost to Jillian Robertson by decision. Jillian Robertson has a really good submission ability herself, so that's not really too bad. Beat Laura Mueller, yeah. Lost to Cynthia Calvillo. That was when Cynthia Calvillo was on her come up. Cynthia Calvillo had so much hype around this time, about 3 or 4 years ago, in like 2017, 2018, and then beat the undefeated at the time, Cyril Kondo. But I'm picking Corinne Silva to win her UFC debut. I really like the momentum coming behind this girl. I like her wrestling. I like her grappling. I think she's going to beat Poliana Botelho, and you know what, I will pick her to win by submission. I mean, I know the majority of Tapology does too, but I think Corinne Silva should probably get the job done inside the distance in this one here. She's got really good game. Her win over Kiki Yan's very impressive. I think Alright, sorry if there's a really awkward cut, but it's just that my Tapology decided to stop loading for some reason, so here we are, we're going to resume with the predictions. Felice Herrig versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz, the second fight. This is such a weird matchup. I don't really know what to think of it. It's so weird. But it's taking place at strawweight. Karolina Kowalkiewicz hasn't fought for 9 months. Felice Herrig hasn't fought for about a year and 9 months. So Karolina Kowalkiewicz has fought most recently, but she's on a really bad losing streak, man. She's on a 5-fight losing streak. At one point she was 10-0. She lost a couple of fights, and then she won a couple of fights. And then since then, she went on a 5-fight losing streak to Jessica Andrade, KO loss, Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, Jianan Yan, and Jessica Penne. Actually, you know what? Now that I name those names, those losses aren't that bad. But it's just the fact that they've gone 5 in a row. And their last fight was Felice Herrig losing a split decision 4 years ago. So now they're going to get the rematch. Oh, it's just such a weird fight. I don't really know what to think of it. I know Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a really good a stand-up game. Felice Herrig, I guess, is probably more of like a wrestler. But to be fair, I haven't really paid much attention to Felice Herrig's career, like whatsoever, because she last fought almost 2 years ago, and even then at the time I wasn't super interested in what she was doing. But this is such a weird fight. I don't know what to think about it. I know it's probably going to go the distance. I don't think we're going to get a finish. I think we're going to see Karolina Kowalkiewicz get another win. But man, I feel really bad for Karolina. She went on a 5-fight losing streak, and she's still in the UFC, so good for her. But at 36 years old, I feel like maybe the winner of this fight retires. Maybe even the loser of this fight retires. Even like, if it's a split decision win for Felice Herrig, maybe that'll still a trilogy and call it a day at the end of that. But I'm going to be picking Karolina Kowalkiewicz to keep the fight on the feet and probably win. I don't know. I feel like Karolina Kowalkiewicz retired? ? I thought Felice Herrig retired as well. So I don't know how quote unquote in shape either will be. I don't know if they've been training full time like they used to when they were full time fighters. Maybe they didn't retire and I'm just like the biggest idiot on the planet. But I don't really know what to think of this fight at the moment. I think that was only announced a couple of days ago as well. So I don't know what to think. The odds are probably going to be quite close. I would expect potentially you could see Herrig as a slight favourite, maybe, but I would not bet this fight. Maybe if you're going to bet this fight, be like an over 2.5, but stay away from the bet in my opinion. Co-main event, banger fight though, Dan Ige versus Movsar Evloev. This is Movsar Evloev's opportunity to get into the top 10 of featherweight division. Dan Ige, I've been very critical of Dan Ige in the past. I picked him to lose against Josh Emmett. I picked him to lose against Chan Sung Jung. I believe I picked him to... I can't remember what I picked him to. I didn't have a YouTube channel when he fought Gavin Tucker, actually, but I did pick him to lose against Chan Sung Jung, and I did pick him to lose against Josh Emmett. Movsar Evloev, on the other hand, 15-0. Very impressive record. Fights out of Tiger Muay Thai at times. He's beaten Hakeem Dawodu by decision, which is pretty cool. Beaten Nick Lentz, beat Mike Grundy. I mean, he's beaten good names, but he hasn't beaten top 15 Dan Ige level, you know what I mean? Dan Ige's been in there with some great guys. Yes, he's lost to some great guys. Yes, he lost to Calvin Kattar. Yes, he lost to Chan Sung Jung. Yes, he lost to Josh Emmett. But he's also beaten Gavin Tucker by KO in the first round. He's beaten Edson He did not win that fight. Anyway, he's fought Edson Barboza, you know what I mean? Like, Movsar Evloev, Dan Ige, he got out-grappled at times by Chan Sung Jung. Chan Sung Jung was able to utilize some wrestling, took Dan Ige down at times. I feel like Movsar Evloev was probably going to be able to utilize the same sort of strategy as what Chan Sung Jung did. I will be picking Movsar Evloev to win this fight, probably by a decision as well, to be fair. Dan Ige, I don't really know why he calls himself 50k, because he's actually quite consistent and putting on very boring performances. As I said, I've been very critical of this guy, but he made the Josh Emmett fight quite boring. The Chan Sung Jung fight wasn't super exciting either. Like, he knocked out Garam Tucker, but good for him. But apart from that, he's only got 3 finishes in the UFC, and he's fought in the UFC so many times, and he got so many wins. That's just my take on it, really. But I'm picking Movsar Evloev to win the fight. As for the main event, I really don't know what to think about this one here. My first pick, my first thought was Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and now I've seen a few people picking Alexander Volkov, and I just don't know, man. Alexander Volkov is he's so like physically gifted. He's 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. He fights at heavyweight. He used to weigh like 230 pounds, so he's bulked up to about 250, 260. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, on the other hand, great kickboxer, insane kickboxing record, like 78 wins to 10 losses or something, which is crazy. Knocked out by Francis Ngannou. Ever since then, he's kind of become the frozen strike. Like, yes, he knocked out JDS, was the frozen strike against Cyril Gane, knocked out Augusto Sakai in the first round, fought Curtis Blades and got taken down a bunch of times and lost a decision there. Volkov, on the other hand, lost to Tom Aspinall, I believe in the first round, only about a month ago, so I'm glad to see that he is making a comeback, but he was getting pieced up a little bit on the feet at times by Tom Aspinall. He's a great prospect. Beat Marcin Tybura. I picked him to beat Tybura because I think Tybura is just a little bit overrated. He lost to Cyril Gane. Not really a bad loss, to be fair. Knocked out Alistair Overeem in a really sad and hard to watch fight for Overeem fans, to be fair, and knocked out Walt Harris. I'm so torn on this fight, man. There's a good argument for Volkov. There's a good argument for Rozenstruik. I'm picking the. I want to pick Rozenstruik by KO, but it's just so hard to put my faith in the frozen one. Just he doesn't throw. He doesn't throw with power. Well, he does throw with power, sorry, but he doesn't throw like he used to. Like, he doesn't run forward like he used to. As soon as he got KO'd by Francis Ngannou, he's not the same fighter, you know what I mean? He's a little bit frustrating at times, I would say. Maybe this is a really good comeback fight for Volkov. Maybe this is a really good opportunity for Rozenstruik to get a great KO on his resume. I'm gonna side with my original pick in Rozenstruik, but do not be surprised if I change my pick by the time that the breakdowns come out. I'm sorry that I don't really have too much to say over the last 3 fights, but man, I'm hyped for this fight night, man. I'm really hyped for this fight night. And if you like the video, please leave a like below. Leave a comment as well. I would appreciate that. I will be coming up with my breakdowns later on, obviously in about 3 to 4 days' time. But yeah, I'll leave you guys to it.